The interesting thing about foster parenting is, unlike biological parents, you're given a lot of training. So it's sort of one of those things where I started to learn not just about the nature of caring for kids coming from hard places, but also just about parenting and about raising tiny humans and what they need from you.
Buckle up for a new episode of the S.H.E podcast, the show where we have real and raw conversations to inspire and empower you to be seen and heard so you can create balance and everything you want in your life and business. I'm your host, S.H.E, and I'm excited to walk alongside of you on this journey of being seen, heard, and empowered. Welcome to today's episode of the S.H.E podcast, Be Seen, Be Heard, Be Empowered. And today's episode, I'm really excited about diving into because this one hits close to home. This one is about the children and about really having a calling on your heart with a mission to serve children and to serve family, and also in building a business. So it's two things about what I'm really passionate about. And so I'm really excited to introduce you today to Amy Vale. So thank you, Amy, so much for coming on today and spending your time with me.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to have a chat.
I am too. So before we dive in, Amy, I'm just going to give everybody an introduction, a little background about who you are and what you do and what we're going to be chatting about today. So Amy Vale is the founder of For the Cubs, a company providing quality essentials for young children while supporting kids in foster care. Motivated by her experience as a foster parent, Amy transitioned from a successful marketing career with brands like Spotify and Charity Water to entrepreneurship, to launching For the Cubs and undergoing foster care training. After undergoing foster care training, Amy knew she found a gap in the market. For the Cubs' hero product, Percy, a weighted plush bear named after her late grandfather, embodies Amy's mission to provide comfort and belonging to every child. And I'm really excited to talk about Percy. But before we dive into Percy and the backstory on that guy, can you share with us why? What is your why? I know for me, when I work with clients, whether it's corporate or personal clients, the why is a big piece of building a business, of staying motivated, staying connected. So why was it that you decided to leave? I mean, I'm guessing that you had a great job with Spotify and the big companies that you work for. Why did you decide to move into building this and going into entrepreneurship and on your own?
Awesome question. I think it's hard to answer in one sentence. I think it was a culmination of a lot of things, and it really was about the timing of everything. I had always wanted to start my own business. I had worked for a lot of other people for my entire career in executive leadership and in the marketing function. And I loved building things and solving problems and bringing value to the business and to customers. But I always had sort of this desire to do it on my own and sort of run a business the way I wanted it to be run, from the culture and the value I was creating, all of those sort of aspects. But I never had a very clear idea on what I wanted that to be. And so as I was going through my career, the last full-time job that I was in was with a publicly traded company. I was their CMO for a brief moment. And previous to that, they had acquired the company that I was CMO of. So I had gone sort of through some big events that in a career full of VC-funded startups is sort of the thing that you're working towards in a startup. So that was really exciting and I learned a ton. But after that, I was just really feeling like I needed something different. And I had been working towards being licensed to be a foster parent with my husband and just learning a ton. The interesting thing about foster parenting is, unlike biological parents, you're given a lot of training.
Most of the time, it doesn't come with a book, right? It doesn't.
Correct.
It's a manual. Yeah.
Exactly. And foster parents get a whole certificate and everything.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So it's sort of one of those things where I started to learn not just about the nature of caring for kids coming from hard places, but also just about parenting and about raising tiny humans and what they need from you. And as I was going through it, one of the things is really understanding the importance of belonging. Foster care is a temporary situation, but every kid, every human craves to belong. And so I thought, what a really interesting way to frame how to support parents as they're raising their kids. How are you nurturing a child to build their sense of belonging wherever they may be? And so that sort of was where I started to think about some of the things that I could translate from foster care training into a business. And that's how Percy came to be. I learned that we need 8 to 12 hugs a day for emotional well-being.
Wow.
And that was something where I was like, I don't think I sort of keep track of how many hugs I get a day. And so I started to think about like the gap and the support that people need. It was lost on me how much support people are craving. And support is an aspect of belonging, needing that person to lean on so you feel safe and secure. And so that's how I designed Percy. He is designed to mimic a hug. And one of the things that I wanted to bring into Percy's character was my grandfather. He was my safe place, the place that I felt like I belonged whenever I was with him. He was very accepting and supportive and taught me a lot. And so I wanted to share that sort of memory with him in a way that really supported other people. And so Percy was my grandfather's nickname that my nana gave him. They were married for 50 years, and it was sort of one of those really lovely ways to honor him. That's also where the glasses come from and the little bits of hair on top of his head. But really sort of thinking about what are the things that nurture belonging at home? And it's the basics. It's eating, sleeping, and soothing. Those are the things that nurture belonging. And that's what parents are responsible for doing in the very early days. And so that's how I came up with this idea of For the Cubs. And I think anyone that sees a child, you're motivated by doing things for them, for their benefit, whether it to be making them feel happy, safe, calm, connected, all of those things. And so that's where the name came from, is we're doing it for their benefit. So whether you're a biological parent, a foster parent, this is sort of a way to really reflect like why you're doing it. It's for them. In addition to that, part of it was my husband and I taking one child at a time in foster care because we don't know what their needs are going to be. And we always want to make sure we have capacity to give them everything that they need. And oftentimes it's a lot of attention and structure and stability. I want to help more kids. So this was a really great way to be able to have a give back component in the business where I partnered with One Simple Wish. It's a nonprofit, and basically, kiddos in foster care or that have connection to foster care or in crisis are able to request their wish. And oftentimes the organization finds there's a lot of pushback because kids are wishing for iPhones, Jordans, all of these big, beautiful things. It could be something as big as a trip to Disney. It could be something as simple as snacks for bedtime. And the thing I loved about it was giving children the opportunity to dream and to hope, and for an adult to show up and show that their wish matters. And so every customer that shops with For the Cubs is supporting our ability to grant those wishes to kiddos. And we share that with our customers every quarter.
That is amazing and incredible. I think of the name For the Cubs. I know I'm going to ask you this. Was part of it because when you think of parents or like Mama Bear, Papa Bear, was that any reference to it? Is that what kind of the premise behind it was?
Yeah, it was interesting. It actually is a total side note, but we were moving to Austin. We were inspecting the house that we moved into, and we found there was some live wires in the attic. And my husband sort of piped up and he said, well, if anything, we need to get an electrician in here to make sure that it's safe for the cub that's living here right now from the sellers. He was so concerned with making sure it was safe for the cub. And when I started to think about that sort of aspect of mama bear, papa bear, and the more I looked into how bears behave in the wild, they're a community that raise their cubs. And so I thought there's a lot of beautiful things that were coming together. And I was just like, yeah, we're doing it. Like parents do this for their cubs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And so you mentioned that you get training, right? And as parents, like for biological children, I guess so we could call it that. Like we don't get the training. Like I'm a mom of two kids, and just the things that you shared, I didn't know. I didn't know that for emotional well-being, we need 8 hugs a day. I know for a fact my kids don't get 8 to 12 hugs a day. So now, today, as soon as they get home, I'm probably gonna lay on 8 to 10
Yeah.
hugs. I'm gonna pile on, and then in a matter of 4 hours that I see them between school and bed,
Yeah.
gonna be like, "Mom, what is wrong with you? I'm taking care of your emotional well-being." Right?
Yeah.
We don't know that. And just think about, had we known that when they're infants, we could be raising more emotionally stable children, with as simple as possibly a hug. We're so focused on making sure they're clothed and making sure they're fed and just making sure that we're getting them safely through life, that many times that simple hug is put to the wayside. I know that my daughter will come to me and she'll lean in for a hug, but she's not like wrapping her arms around. She's more reserved. And I grew up that way, where my son is more affectionate when he hugs. My daughter's getting there. I think it has to do with personalities. I wish as parents had the training that you are getting. So I think it's amazing that they give you, and that these children are being welcomed into homes that are well equipped and ready to provide that. I just think what you're doing is spectacular. And can I be your friend? I just think you have the most amazing heart. And as I was sharing with you behind the scenes, I have a friend who was foster parenting, and she has since then adopted, and now that's been her son for so many years. It's one of my son's best friends, and I can't imagine not even knowing him, but he's such a big part of the family. So I have a few questions for you. Can you tell us more about Percy? And then I want to get into the business aspect of it, but I still want to continue on this path of the amazing work you're doing and what Percy symbolizes, and how we can help you get the mission out, get your message out, and how we can support your business and your cause.
Yeah, absolutely. When I started, I've never designed a product before. That was a whole new adventure for me, and it was a lot of trial and error. And a lot of the things that I thought about with Percy was really the ability, number one, to mimic a hug, but in addition to that, exploring the other ways that can sort of support regulation in people. And originally, I designed Percy for kids. That is sort of what the premise is of the brand. But what I quickly found was that a lot of adults were craving a hug from Percy as well. And he's providing a lot of support to adults beyond my wildest imagination of who Percy is supporting in this world and what people are going through when they lean on him is really continuing to blow my mind. We have people who are experiencing medical trauma, waiting for cancer test results, have lost their husband of 50 years, and Percy is that support as they grieve the loss of their loved one. I had a mother whose son had a tragic accident. He's 32 and he has two Percys, one on either side that he holds when he's uncomfortable, and that gives him comfort. And
Wow.
she said, I've even held Percy myself from time to time. And so just like the idea of creating that sense of peace and belonging is something that I hoped for and I wished for, and really, really wanted to sort of have that happen. But I just could never have explained the stories that have come out of that. And I think that's a testament to when you're building a business and you're pouring your heart and soul and you're risking so much to have that, that's the payback. Yes, revenue is lovely.
Mm.
Revenue keeps the doors open. But in terms of your motivation to keep going, because being an entrepreneur is exhausting, it's isolating, it's lonely. And the amount of times I sit in this room and I wonder, like, does anyone see what I'm doing? Does anyone care what I'm doing?
Mm.
And then I get a response like that, that Percy has given someone comfort in a moment where they desperately needed it. That is the reward. That's the payoff. I think that's the thing I always keep thinking about as I designed Percy was, can he be warmed? Can he be cooled to add an additional layer of comfort? His fur is very, very soft. And that was intentional so that there was a touch and sensory aspect to it. There's no small parts on him, so it is safe for all ages. And the way that the weight is distributed means that he can be laid flat. He can be put around your neck. There's sort of all different ways that he can be used. And that was through many, many iterations of that product design. And I'm continuing to evolve that even as we speak. So I think a big part of that would be just really sort of thinking about what is the intention beyond the money that you hope to receive when you put this product out into this world.
Yeah, I love that you talked about that piece of it because I'm big on the why. And that's why did you do this? Why did you start this? Why did you leave your corporate job? Because at the end of the day, you just nailed it. I really am on a mission to shift this because I hear it from so many people and I know I hear it from my mouth as well. Entrepreneurship is lonely, it's isolating, it's an arduous journey. And why am I doing this? Do people even care? Most people are like, "Why are you even doing this?" Right? They're just like, "Why are you spending all your time doing this when you can be, working a 9 to 5, making whatever you wanna make and keep going and doing what you were doing." Right, Amy? You were getting a successful career, you just coulda kept doing that. But at the end of the day, you would not be getting these messages and making this impact for this boy, right? For these children, for these adults who are going through them. And it doesn't matter what I heard that you've learned and you've recognized is that you're reaching people across the board. There's no age limit to Percy.
Mhm.
No yes, it was created initially for the foster children, right? But then it's been all of a sudden it's helping adults as well, no matter what they're going through, whether they just need a hug because their adult child is going through a traumatic experience or, whatever that looks like for them. And, understanding and getting clear on your why is so important. But like you said, the revenue is great. We definitely need revenue to keep the doors open. And I'm all for you want to create $1 million, you want to be a multimillionaire, you want to be an 8-figure earner. I am here to support you on that. I'm all for it. And what are you creating in the world while you're doing that? Right. Because that's what's the money isn't going to change you, right? The money is going who you are now, the money, whether you have it or not, you need to make shifts before you have it because it's not going to change you. At the end of the day, it's more exhilarating and more fulfilling to have those people coming to you and going, "Oh my gosh." It seems like that comes back right at the right moment. Have you
Mhm.
noticed that? Like right when you're at that point, it's like, "Oh my gosh," that message comes in.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, it's the timing and alignment as each thing happens in this business. There'll be times where I'm sitting here going, okay, what's the next like plan and strategy that I can, because you're constantly learning from something. Did that work? Did that not work? How do I reach a different group of people to serve them better? And sometimes you just sit there and I'm all out. I don't have new ideas or I don't have a new direction to go in to try to keep the business growing. And then something happens and you're like, ah, got it. Thank you. It's all about the timing. And it's all about, I think one of the things that coming from environments that were VC funded with lots of budget, lots of people going down to a small but mighty team of one, you learn that like speed is not the priority. Like there are only so many things you can get done in a day, especially being a parent, especially layering on the demands of foster care. As a parent, I had to really accept that to make an impact and to build a business, it was going to take time. It wasn't going to be the really aggressive up and to the right story that every entrepreneur wishes for. And I think being able to humble your expectations of what success looks like and be really focused on the why you're showing up every day, which just can't be to add zeros to your bank account because this is something that is the most meaningful work that I have ever done in my entire career, but it's not the most lucrative. And when I think about how I feel every day, when I show up or when I read a review or when I'm talking to a customer, that is the reward and the benefit of doing this work. I think that's the thing we're taught. When I was growing up, I was taught like you get a job, you make lots of money as much as you possibly can, you get security,
Mm.
and then you retire.
Grind it out for 30, 40, 50 years and then enjoy life at that point, and most people die. Right after they retire, they
Uh-huh.
die because 'cause they've grinded it out for the past 50 years, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, so true. I grew up learning the same thing, so completely, I totally, totally get it. I have so many questions, and I know I promised you I would stay on time, so I'm gonna do that, but this is what happens when we do conversational flow. It's just like all these questions are coming to me, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." How long did it take you to create Percy? Because you just shared a lot of the details and you were open and said that you're still evolving. Percy is still evolving. So
Mhm.
how long did it actually take to create the first Percy?
The first version that went to market took 12 months to develop and 4 prototypes.
Wow.
The first version, Percy, was white. Terrible idea. Kids are going to make that super dirty, super
Ready?
quick. Like, so we switched to a different fur color. Like it was all of those learnings. And thankfully I did it before I placed the order for the first version. But like those are the things that you learn when you have absolutely no idea what you're doing and you're doing it by trial and error. And I'm not one of those people that has the luxury of just having a brain that allows me to go and like be methodical in my research and like get all of the information first before I do something. I have ADHD, so my brain naturally just dives in and starts doing it, and I learn that way. So that's why it took 12 months and 4 different prototypes.
But honestly, 12 months isn't a long time. Some people take
Yeah.
years because that actually is a benefit that you just dove in and did it, because some perfectionists out there could take 4 or 5 years or never even get it off the ground because
Yeah.
they're trying to be perfect. Messy makes me millions. Not that we have to make millions, or not
Yeah.
everybody wants to, but messy makes things happen and get things progressing. So honestly, 12 months for your first launch of a product and out of the gate, like never having a product before, that to me is pretty quick. And that's
Awesome.
most likely because you did it messy, right? You did it messy.
Yeah.
Let's just take action and do it. And for prototypes, some people do 200 before they get to
Yeah.
where they want to be. So let's talk about business now, because I know people are listening. We cater to female entrepreneurs and business owners and people in corporate and business. What were some of your biggest challenges when you started your business?
So I would say probably being self-funded, the risk of spending my family, like money that I have saved and earned, I'm reinvesting that into taking a bet on myself instead of investing that into property or the real estate market or what have you. And I think having a very supportive husband makes all of the difference because he's the one that's saying, well, let's put some more of our investment into the business. He's banking on me more than I'm banking on myself. I think that was the thing, was just like that risk, like the stakes feel really high still just because it is a risk. There are so many people trying, but I think one of the things that I heard somewhere, I can't remember who to sort of attribute it to, but they said your ability to stay and keep trying is half of the battle. There's so many people that fall out because it is so scary and there is so much risk attached. So if you can persevere and stay in it for the long game, you're halfway there already.
Yeah.
And I think that's true of so many things. And because we live in this instant gratification culture of everything has to happen so quickly, that it goes against the grain to be patient and to build slowly and to allow for growth over time. My husband's a musician and we talk all the time about how there's these overnight sensations that became everyone knows about, but it took them 10 years to get there.
Yeah, I agree with them. There's no overnight sensation. Even with entrepreneurship, when somebody says, "Oh, I did 7 figures in the last 30 days." Well, they've been doing this for how many years? It didn't happen. Or I
Mhm.
created 6 figures in the last 30 days. Like, that didn't just happen. They didn't launch a month ago and go, "Oh, look what I created."
Right.
And I think that's a very dangerous thing for some people to say out there. I wish they would give more information and context into what the journey really looked like. Some people do, many people don't. And this is a long game. It's not you don't just decide, I'm going to do this for 12 months and see how it goes. It doesn't work like that. You really need to make a 5-year, 10-year commitment, because as you said, so many entrepreneurs, they literally, or people wanting, like with a dream, whether you are working on the side and this is a side hustle, or you're going all in this and you're self funding it, just like Amy was sharing. This is the long game, and you need to be willing to do whatever it takes and make that commitment. I am not giving up. That being said, sometimes we need to make some pivots. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a straight line from A to B. What we think is going to happen and what we're going to create when we start a business doesn't mean that we're going to end up in that same space in 5 years from now. Your business, Amy, could look a little different, right?
Mhm.
You have this mission, this purpose, but you don't know who's going to come in and go, "Oh, what about this?" And you're like, "Oh my gosh, I never even thought about that possibility." Right.
Totally.
And there's so many things can shift and change, and just being open to that and understanding that. And then, then you got also people going, "Well, you making any money yet? You making any money yet? You
Oh
making
my
any money
goodness.
yet? Well, you making
Seriously.
any money yet?" And it's not there yet. Some people on the outside think that within 3 months you should be making money. If you're not, well, then you should go get a job because this is ridiculous, right? Do you get that? Yeah.
Oh, every day. And I mean, I'm my own worst enemy because I'm looking at at the number, have you made any money yet? It's the reality of that external challenging and the stories of growth and this overnight sensation, especially in the e-commerce space, where there are people that had wild success a decade ago when the dynamics in the market were completely different.
Mhm.
And now I'm in a market that is flushed with brands every single day. And again, it's like I'm a part of a ton of e-commerce communities and just very supportive communities. But again, there's still this like energy of we've got to be making 10x. Your ROAS has to be 10, 20. There's all these crazy numbers that are being reported, and you're like, well, yikes, that's not what my numbers look like.
Yeah.
And it really makes you challenge yourself. But
Yeah.
then my brain comes back online and I remind myself what I'm doing this for.
Yeah.
And it's not for any of those folks. It's like, good on you. That's amazing. Love
Exactly.
that for you. But like my path is different and it's probably going to take a little more time.
Yeah, and I agree. I like that you said that because there's a comparisonitis that we can get sucked into when whether we're building a product to sell a product and bring that product to market or a service.
Mhm.
And I think that is a rabbit hole that can destroy a lot of businesses because they're comparing themselves to other people and what other people are doing and the expectations that we place on ourselves. Well, I should be doing that and I'm not doing that. So I must be failing. So I should just quit. I'm not as good as them, blah, blah, blah. And not necessarily true. It's not true at all. Like take out the necessarily out of that. It's not true at all. Everybody's path is different. Your journey is different and it's your own. And that's part of your story. And that's part of what are going to attract people to you. And you got to understand too, target markets are different. Timelines are different. Where somebody else may have been doing this for 20 years, where you're on year one,
Mhm.
right? So we can't compare ourselves. Like you said, e-commerce was different 10 years ago than it is now. I think the pandemic really shifted a lot of things, both for the good and not necessarily for the good when it comes to launching products or services. And 2020, everybody was coming online. It was a great space for people who are already online. People coming into the online space and going, oh, now I'm going to coach. It was a harder, hold to grab onto because now you're starting from scratch where these people were already doing it and building for 1 to 10 years. So understand where you're at. Don't compare yourself to other people and understand this is your journey and reach out to people, build community. Amy shared she's in community and you take all with a grain of salt.
Mhm.
Community is great and don't compare yourself to where somebody else is. So, Amy, I want to ask you. So, we talked about your challenge, and I'm glad that you shared that because I was actually going to ask you. That was one of my questions. Were you self funded? Because you shared you went through 4 rounds with Percy one, right? With the first launch of Percy. I was curious if you had funding or if you were self funded, which in self funding can be scary. So, what were some of the fears that you came upon when and that you still move through? Every time we go level up, that either that fear shows up again or another fear shows up. Can you share some of the fears that have shown up for you while you're building and growing?
Yeah, I think some of them come from career. So, having been a leader of a marketing function for many different brands that have been successful, I've taken my ability to be a great marketer very seriously. And it was very humbling to shift from leading groups of people with like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to spend on driving the business
Mm,
to my self funded business of one that was doing every single function within the business, some of which I had never had to personally do before. So I was on a very steep learning curve and just trying to conserve cash as much as possible. But then also listening to these like folks in the community who, again, had budgets to play with of very well funded businesses and saying, oh, you should be approaching Meta this way and you should be testing 20 to 30 creatives a week. And I'm like, cool, who? I don't have that. And it was just starting to be, oh my goodness, have I totally made this so much more simple in my head? I'm way in too deep. And then it's like, that was the fear of, cool, I'm not a good marketer. I'm not a good business person. I've just sunk a bunch of my own personal money that was for my retirement. You just start to have these really harsh thoughts around the choices that you've made. And then for whatever reason, it's the flip side of that where you're like, hold on a second. There are plenty of people who aren't as smart as you, who have had great success and figured it out. And you know what they've done? They've persevered.
Mhm.
And they've been bold and audacious and they've told their story without fear and they own what they're doing and what they're driving towards and they've seen success. So how's about I take some of that energy and look for what is next. And I think that fear has probably been the greatest driver once I can harness it into refocusing on why I'm sitting in this room on my own, spending my own personal money in this business. And, I look at the kiddo that I'm caring for now and I see how we're serving her and I see her growing and progressing. And I'm like, it's for the cubs. I have to go back to that why. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big part of it. I think the other fear is other people having those thoughts. I've come a long way in not being worried about what other people think of me, but my heart is so deeply invested into this business that I want it to succeed because I want it to help more people. I think that misalignment that so many people have between success equals money and success equals press and success equals X, Y, and Z. And then it's sort of recalibrating that back because oftentimes the goals that others have projecting onto you are not what yours are. And why I got into this business to begin with was because I didn't want to be stuck in that hamster wheel of like board meetings and investors demanding growth every single quarter in
Yeah.
spite of good customer service or building a better product or creating more value or all of those things. And so when I think about that, it still keeps coming back to my why. And I think that's how you really can push back on the fears because I think being enough is always going to be the fear. Whenever I am talking to a customer and they have questions or they want to swap something or even return something, my biggest question is, cool, can you help me understand why this product isn't meeting your need? Totally fine to return it, no worries. But also, like, help me understand what I'm missing because all I want is to provide great experiences for you, even if that means that you don't have a product from For the Cubs in your home. That's okay. But just help me understand. And I think the more that you can, because you're always going to get complaints, you're always going to get people with opinions. And I think people are fearful of that. And for me, that's something I actually really embrace. And I've really enjoyed having those conversations. It sounds really wild, but like I actually really enjoy getting on the phone or having a conversation on email and really getting under the hood of what's going on because it makes me better in terms of how I can show up for customers and serve them more meaningfully.
And that's what's gonna make you really successful in this, both with a huge impact and with your company being successful revenue-wise, so you can also help the nonprofit that you also support as well, creating more wishes and making more wishes come true. And I think that's beautiful. I really like how you talked into the impact of it. Like, success means different things for different people, and it doesn't have to be mean money. I just had this conversation with my daughter today, or it was today and yesterday because she's 15 and she needs to find an internship. And she's like, I don't know what to intern for. And I said, well, you love photography. We talked about this. And she's like, but mom, photography doesn't really make money. And I'm like, who said it doesn't make money? And why can't it make money? And at the end of the day, right now it's just an internship. You're 15. And these are the
Right.
things that you get to step into to see what you like and don't like. And when I, like you had shared, when we grew up, it was get a job. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. Get a job that's going to make you a lot of money, get your degree, do your thing, and then just go do it for 30 to 50 years, and then
Mhm.
get that social security and call it a day. Right. And
Mhm.
hope that you live long enough to enjoy that side of life. And then,
Mhm.
so for her, I'm like, I wish I would have known this back when, and really, I love animals and I wanted to be a veterinarian and I didn't become a veterinarian, but I would have loved dog training. And I didn't even look at that aspect of it because it was more like, hey, engineering can make you a lot of money, or this can make you a lot of money. So I went into that route. And I'm like, Hunter, you have, and it's her name. I'm like, you have so many opportunities now while you're home to try everything. She loves cooking. I'm like, so get an internship with a chef.
Yeah.
Really do that. See if you like it. You may hate it, but you may enjoy doing it at home and then hate working at night in a restaurant. All
Yep.
good, but do it now before you're 25, living on your own and having to pay bills, right?
Mhm.
Doing what you love, like you said, there's all about finding your passion And back in our day, I'm back in my day, I'm a lot older than you. I'm 52. So back in my day, you had to just go do it and really didn't have time to figure out the passion. Where now I'm like, and just like I'm sure you're doing with your little, you're like, find what you love now, try all the things, and doesn't matter. We want you to try 50 things and determine and throw out what you don't like so that you
Yeah.
can create something that you are now passionate about and love what you're doing. And that's what's, you get I'm sure you get up I'm sure mornings you're like, "Okay, what am I gonna do? What am I doing today?" But most of the time, you have a fire that you're doing this because of this impact I'm making. So success isn't all about the money. It's also about the ripple effect, the impact, and how we're making a difference in the world. When it comes to entrepreneurship, I always tell my clients, find what you love. Really do what lights you up, especially as a solopreneur. What advice can you give to solopreneurs? Because you had mentioned putting in your money, self investing, and all of this. What would you say would be the number one things if somebody's starting out, or if maybe they're not starting out, maybe they're a year in and they're a solopreneur? What should they be focusing on?
I think from a really very practical standpoint, cash flow is conserving your dollars is you have to have money to keep the business open. So from a very practical day-to-day thing, the boring thing is making sure that there's money in the
Comes in
bank.
revenue generating activities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing I'm coming up on a milestone birthday and I've become very philosophical and thinking about what that means. And I spent decades worrying about everything and brought that energy into for the Cubs because I was constantly concerned with everything else that was happening around me. And the closer I get to this milestone birthday, I really sort of have been able to put into perspective and all that experience and learning is that nothing really matters except what matters to you. And I think that's indicative of like when I think about what really like makes me move and why I'm taking this risk and putting this bet upon myself is because I I want better for other people, and that's what keeps me going. And so if that's what matters to me, it doesn't matter what so and so thinks or like someone who's got an opinion about why your numbers aren't going in up and to the right or a cranky customer because if I'm motivated by what matters to me, it means I'm going to serve them regardless. And so I think that's the thing that the external stuff that we all think matters so much does not matter.
Mhm.
It's what really drives you and matters to you that is the most meaningful and important thing to focus on.
What if somebody wants to do foster care? What if they're listening to you and they're like, "Oh, I want to be a foster parent. What should they do?" And I want to make this super laser because I want to get into promoting Percy, how we can support you in your business. And I definitely might need to bring you back on because I do have a lot of other questions.
Amazing. Yes. If you want to become a foster parent or support families that are caring for kids in foster care, Google search of here, it's like DFPS, it could be CPS. You could just type in foster licensing near me. You can just pop in an easy Google search. And usually there's an orientation that the state organization runs where they give you the very high level overview to just sort of give you the glimpse into what it is. And if that feels right, then you can start. They'll give you the next steps. It's a long process. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of sacrifice, but it is one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. It's probably like the thing I think about as a legacy to
Yeah.
after I'm gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fostered animals and I'm a foster failure with that. I've done that
Um,
round. I haven't tried many humans yet or little humans. So how can we support you in your business? What can you share with us? How do we find you and connect with you, Amy?
Yes, you can find us at forthecubs.com. If there isn't anything that you need on the site right now, just share it with some folks that you think would benefit from knowing about it. It's parents, it's people that are having a rough time. Like I said, Percy is really serving everyone that's going through something. I feel like that's pretty much everyone right now. Share, follow us on social media. You can find us at For the Cubs on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. If you'd love to connect with me and chit chat, I'm always down to chit chat about business on LinkedIn. I would love to connect there as well.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll have all of Amy's links in the show notes. And that's what I wanted to talk into. And I'm not going to ask you any questions around it, but I do like that you mentioned that you really want to know. You care about your customers and your people so much that when somebody say it's not a fit, right? They buy a product, it's not a fit. you go that extra mile. And that's what you had said mentioned twice earlier that I wanted to talk into. And I like that you really do that. You take the time and you're like, okay, let me know why. Where's the gap? Why wasn't it fit for you? And I know that when you do that, whether they're taking on another product and bringing their home or not, you taking that time with them, they're going to refer people to you who that will be a better fit for, you know? So if somebody says, I mean, they're, oh my gosh, you know, you got to reach out to Amy or go grab Percy or, you know, check out this company and, you know, blah, 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 and support this nonprofit also that she's supporting or learn more about foster care. If somebody wants to possibly enter that world, reach out to Amy because you took that extra time. And that's what I really wanted to bring to light for those listening. That's a big piece of your business. That is what's going to take you to the next level. That is what's missing in most entrepreneur businesses is that people are so focused on one thing and that's making money and bringing revenue in, which you need with, and they miss the piece that by doing that and taking that and going that extra mile and really going asking questions to their target market, to their audience, to their customers and clients, that's where the revenue is missing for a lot of businesses. So you mentioned that twice, and I just wanted to bring that to the forefront because I thought it was such a gold nugget there that many people miss. They don't think about that in their business. I have one final question for you, Amy, and I usually let people know I'm going to say this before just so they can think in the back of the mind. I don't know the answer, but I'm throwing this out at you. So I hope if you don't have an answer, it's okay. We can cut this out. But it's more of a fun fact, like a behind the scenes. It's not business. It's not anything we've already talked about. Is there anything to get to know you, Amy, behind the scenes? Is there a fun fact that we would not know from just taking a look at For the Cubs or seeing you on social media that's like a fun fact about you?
A fun, completely irrelevant fact
Mm.
is that I know the lyrics to most songs, but cannot sing at all. And being married to a professional musician makes that really hard because my husband always tells me that I would have been a great background singer if I could sing, but
That is awesome. So you're married to a singer and you can't sing. Or no, a
so
musician and you
he,
can't.
he sings, he plays drums, he does all the things and things that I can't do. So I just enjoy listening to him sing and play. And I am good at my things and he's good at
You, you're the karaoke queen in the household then. Yeah.
correct. He'll
Awesome.
usually turn the radio up just to like drown out because I'm usually
Aw,
pitchy and off key. But I'm cool with that because I can't be good at everything.
you can't be good at it. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Amy, thank you so much for being on today. This has been such a joy. I learned so much and we did go the full time. If you have any questions for Amy or want to reach out to her, please do. Please go grab a Percy or go take a look and, you know, send it as a gift to somebody who may be in need of a hug. I know we all are in need of a hug. I'm thinking of 4 people right now I can go grab Percy's for. So please go check out the link in, or even if you don't check out the show notes, go to For the Cubs, forthecubs.com, right, Amy?
That's it. Yep.
Go to forthecubs.com. It's super easy. Go grab a Percy, spread the love. And in the meantime, you're going to be also helping to grant wishes for other children. So this has been such an enjoyable and heartwarming episode. So thank you so much, Amy, for your time and for coming on here. So
It's been a
grateful.
pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening today. We will see you on the next episode of the S.H.E podcast. In the meantime, be empowered to be seen and heard. Thank you for joining us this week on S.H.E. If you've enjoyed what you're hearing, you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss a thing. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating and review. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. And in the meantime, go shine your light and be seen, be heard, and be empowered.